Hello, I'm Father Joe Gambala, and welcome to our Advent series. Today's reading is for the second Sunday of Advent, Year A. It's also the first reading of that Sunday, and it is taken from the prophet Isaiah. On that day, a shoot shall sprout from the stump of Jesse, and from his roots a bud shall blossom, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, a spirit of counsel and strength, a spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord, and his delight shall be the fear of the Lord. My grandfather loved to plant trees. We lived along the side of the Lower Rouge River, and there were some woods down there. And in the early spring or late fall, my grandfather would go down and dig up some trees and plant them on the properties. He was very fond of maple trees, and he was very fond of ash trees. Well, he had this one ash tree he planted right in front of his house to give the house some shade. And he planted that tree years before I was born, so that when I got to see the tree, it was a pretty good-sized tree, and it was covering the house very nicely with some very nice shade. My grandfather did not have air conditioning. He relied on that shade. Then one day, a lightning bolt of a nasty storm hit that tree and split it across the top, and the crack came down into the trunk itself, but did not go all the way down. My grandfather tried to save that tree. He went to the hardware store. Remember hardware stores? And he went to the hardware store and bought as much rope as he could. Then he tied it around and around and around the trunk of the tree. Then he got a clamp, something from, I'm not exactly sure, but something to do with harnessing animals together. Put that clamp on the sides of the tree trunk and twisted it as much as he could, so between the rope and the clamp, he thought he could hold the tree together and it would heal. Unfortunately, like I said, it was a big tree, and on a very windy day, that tree began to sway. And the tension of that weight of that tree pushing and going back and forth, not only busted the clamp and split the rope, it got the split to go all the way down to the bottom, and the tree fell down. My grandfather was very sad. He knew he was going to miss that shade. Well, had some of my cousins come with chainsaws and clean the mess up, and all that was left was the stump. The following spring, though, a whole bunch of sprouts came up out of that trunk. The tree was still alive. It was pushing up brand new growths. It packed in across the trunk. Some of them got as high as 6 feet in that first year. And my grandfather looked at the one that looked like it was going to be the tallest and strongest, and then cut away all the others so that the tree could continue to grow. And then over the years, that tree did continue to grow. And I look at that observation and say, well, today's reading says, a growth shall come from the stump of Jesse. From the outside, it looks dead, but from the inside, it's very much alive. But then I began to think, well, it's all about the roots, isn't it? Those roots are deep. Those roots are solid. Those roots continue to give life. And it reminds me that in our spiritual life, it's very, very important to plant deep roots, because the world gives us lots of challenges. The world sends a lot of storms into our lives. We can get a phone call and tell us that, well, there's something wrong on the x-ray and we might have to have a biopsy done. Or maybe we'll get called in and the boss says, I'm going to have to downsize, and you know what happens next. Challenges come in all of our lives. But if our roots are deep in the faith of the Lord Jesus Christ, if we take the time every day to pray, and if we take the time every week to receive the Eucharist, if we avail ourselves of the sacraments, if we avail ourselves of holy hours, if we avail ourselves to just taking the time out to talk to God and listen to God in our hearts, those roots will go deeper and deeper, so that no matter what the world throws against us and seems to have knocked us down from the outside, we know because of our depth in our faith, we will rebound and grow ever closer to God.